Wolves to the Stony Brook Media Group's live election night coverage. I'm Sky Crabtree.
And I'm So right now, polls are just starting to close. We're getting a lot of results. We're about to send it off to the newsroom.
And we are back in the newsroom. I'm Miles Reese, joined by Erlon Cyrus. Now, the talk of the night right now, in my opinion, I feel like are the polls and how close this race really is. I really want to talk about the Iowa poll that came out yesterday by a day ago, rather, by Ann Seltzer. Now, Ann Seltzer predicted the 2020 election and the 2016 election, which she was kind of unpopular for in 2016 because most people thought Trump was going to win. But this really does show the validity of her polls. And yeah, so there's a lot of information that's really surprising to me. What's surprising to you, Erlon?
Honestly, it's quite interesting, specifically with Florida being, Republican. You would have thought after the 2 hurricane hits that maybe they would have back to back on top of that, then maybe they would have voted Democratic, especially with such a large Hispanic population. But we did also learn that Cuban males tend to have the highest Republican voting rates.
So, yeah, very interesting things. Now, we're also tracking a lot of swing states and battleground states. I also want to mention that North Carolina, I'm very surprised that has not swung in Trump's favor this late on in the game. Really thought that would have been a stronghold for Trump. I'm also looking at this blue wall by the Great Lakes states. We really don't know which way that's going to go. Currently, Michigan and Pennsylvania are leaning Democratic, but we don't know if that's going to stay that way. Ohio is leaning red right now. Also not too sure about that. Illinois, pretty sure that that's going to be a stronghold for the Democrats. It's blue currently right now. But as we know, this is a waiting game. We don't know what's going to happen.
Especially the border states, especially. Obviously immigration is a huge thing this year.
It's a key factor.
Yeah, it's a huge key factor on top of that. And so to see a lot of border states swing red, it's like, we kind of expected that with the whole issues going on and stuff.
Yes, so many things, so many issues. We're just still going to watch these swing states. We're going to watch this election carry through, and all this coverage is coming in just as we speak live. Right. So we'll make sure you stay tuned. I'm going to hand it back to the news desk right now.
Watch party is being held. Stony Brook University students are gathering to watch the election results unfolding in real time. Our reporter Anjali Sinha at the scene live.
As the 2024 election night unfolds, we are here at the Stony Brook Union Wall.
So stay tuned in to Stony Brook.
Have gathered here for a watch party. I'm Anjali Sinha, and tonight I'll be speaking with the attendees about their viewpoints on candidates, key issues, and what this election means to them personally as we all wait for the outcome together. Back to you.
You're doing Cuban Democrat.
Thank you. Great to see that there's a watch party on campus. Next up, the Democratic Watch Party.
Hello, my name is Miriam Gerges, and I'm here with Christopher Yang. We're here at the Suffolk County Democrat Watch Party. Chris, what do you think of the atmosphere here?
Overall, it's looking like a very exciting night. They brought in food and drinks. You could see behind us that they have the polls and they have all of the information that we need to see. The polls have just closed. Districts 1 and 2 are looking like big battleground congressional districts. And so we are here all night to bring to you the best information possible. We're going to try to get some people back in the crowd to get some comments in. And overall, cool night to follow.
Thank you. Back to you at the desk.
Next, we're going to have our reporter Thomas Pardo live from the Suffolk County Republican Party headquarters. Thomas?
Hello. Sarah, you're at the desk, okay? Hello, my name is Thomas Pardo. I'm reporting live in the Stony Brook in Patchogue, New York, where we are covering the Suffolk GOP election night gathering. We are set for a huge night of events, including some special guests, including Representatives Nick Lota and Anthony D'Esposito. It's going to be a dramatic night, so make sure you tune in to Stony Brook University Journalism. Okay.
Thank you for all the great live shots, clearly on campus and even outside of Stony Brook University. But Next, we have Sarah Baxter, Director of Mary Colvin Center for International Reporting, Visiting Professor in Foreign Reporting. What are we thinking about everything going on, Sarah?
Well, I'm in Philadelphia, and the Democrats are feeling pretty upbeat about huge turnouts in this really important democratic city, a stronghold. But honestly, as the night's wearing on, they're getting more and more nervous. That it really looks like a very close race at the moment. As far as the actual votes tallied are concerned, the Democrats are ahead. But really, I think as the night wears on, almost all their hopes rest on winning this state of Pennsylvania and also the other blue wall states of Michigan and Wisconsin. The Sun Belt does not seem to be going their way, or not right now anyway. Of course, it's too early to say, but the Trump supporters are looking happier at the moment.
And I think with this pivotal election, a lot of, emotions are getting high. People are getting, nervous. What do you feel like is the most important state right now? That's very key to this election. North Carolina right now is looking in favor of Trump. There's a lot of states which are somewhat surprising. What do you think is key in terms of who can win this election?
Well, if the Harris campaign could win North Carolina, things might look a little bit more optimistic for her. But that is not looking great at the moment, and Georgia appears not that good either for Harris. Now, things can change. We can have these red mirages with the Republicans doing well and blue mirages with the Democrats doing well. But we haven't seen that many blue mirages tonight for the Democrats. And the big hope is that the Democrats win Pennsylvania. That has the most electoral college votes of any state, any battleground state in America. It has 19 votes. And boy, do the Democrats need those 19 votes right now.
Professor Baxter, thank you for joining us live. I'd love to hear, I know you just briefly mentioned it, but I'd love it if you could give us a little bit more of an analysis on why Pennsylvania is becoming such a heated and focused on state. Obviously, all of the battleground states have seen intense campaign activity as Harris and Trump battle it out. But I'd love for you to give us maybe perhaps a more in-depth explanation on why it's coming down to Pennsylvania being so important as the results come in.
Well, Pennsylvania really symbolizes the changing nature of the demographics as far as Republican and Democratic voters are concerned. Democrats have always been strong in the big urban areas like Philadelphia, like Pittsburgh. The suburbs used to be Republican, but have been trending Democrat, trending blue. But the rural counties, if anything, are doubling down on Republicans. They love Donald Trump. So what we're getting in Pennsylvania is very much what's happening across America, where rural areas are getting more and more Trump supporting, that Democratic areas are, pretty solid in the urban areas, but there's a question mark now over Latino voters and perhaps black men, and indeed young men of whites, blacks, whoever. They're doing better with Trump than they used to. And then the other thing is, of course, Pennsylvania used to be very solidly Democratic until 2016, which is when Trump was elected. That's when he won against Hillary Clinton. He lost narrowly in this state against Joe Biden and therefore lost the election in 2020. And that's because the white working class vote, the industrial vote, the non-college educated industrial voter, perhaps in steel mills, perhaps used to work in the mines, that industry has gone from Pennsylvania or is very much in retreat. And that's why we're seeing the changing nature of the vote in Pennsylvania. And that's why it's gone from being solidly Democratic not that long ago to absolutely on a knife edge. And tonight it could swing either way.
Thank you for that in-depth analysis. Now, I'm looking at the New York Times election forecast right now. They have it still labeled as a toss-up. There's no clear victor yet, but they are leaning towards Trump winning. I'm curious to hear about what you're seeing in Pennsylvania right now, and if what the Times is forecasting is sort of lining up with what your experience is right now.
Yeah, so a lot depends on the day vote. Who was voting today where? Because the mail-in vote looked pretty good for the Democrats. They were about 400,000 or more ahead. But What I've been seeing here on the ground in Philadelphia is lots of men at the polling stations for that early day vote. What does that tell us? Are the women more organized? They were voting early. Were they more motivated, perhaps to support the potentially be the first woman president of the U.S.? But seeing these lines where men were outnumbering women by 4-1, 5-1 in some places, made me think, this might not be one in the bag for the Democrats.
And I think while the focus is on the presidential election, we also have the Senate and the House. Can you just explain to the viewers why that is very key, that each party wins or has control over that?
Yes, well, things aren't looking that good for the Democrats in the Senate. It was always going to be an uphill battle for them because they barely had a majority in the Senate as it was, and a lot of that rested on Joe Manchin, the Democrat in West Virginia, who was very bipartisan. Now his seat's now gone to a Republican. That's no surprise. West Virginia is a very pro-Trump state, so they're already one seat down, as it were, and others may yet fall. So there are many more Democratic Senate seats up for grabs than there are Republican ones. Therefore, it was always going to be a tough challenge for the Democrats to hold their slender majority. We don't know yet what's happening in the House. That's a much more complicated picture. But if Donald Trump does win the election, he's likely to have a Republican Senate behind him, which will put a bit of wind in his sails. Conversely, if Kamala Harris wins and she does become the first woman president of the United States, she could find the Senate implacably opposed to her. So, it could be split.
And, with you having that experience of, covering prior elections, why is this one very pivotal and very important?
Well, I can tell you, as someone who's half American, half British, the eyes of the world are on America at the moment. There's no question that a lot of parts of the world, certainly in Europe, would rather see Kamala Harris prevail. They feel she's a better friend of NATO, a better friend of Ukraine, and that Donald Trump is too fond of Vladimir Putin. On the other hand, other parts of the world, it's a mixed bag. But there's no question that foreign policy, which according to the exit polls looms almost not at all in the minds of the voters, is actually very important. Who wins is very important to the rest of the world and the future of America. I think if Donald Trump wins, authoritarians in other parts of the world, particularly Vladimir Putin, will feel emboldened. And Western Europe rather shudders at that thought, and so does Ukraine.
Okay, I just want to thank you for your response. I really thank you for taking the time in your day to be within this call. Considering you're in Pennsylvania and just giving the time to just give us this insight, I think it's just extremely important. From myself, from Sky, I thank you for just giving us the time and day. And
yes, Professor Baxter, we really appreciate your time and analysis.
Thank you so much for asking me on your show.
Of course. All right, have a great day.
Okay.
Party, Anjali Sinha getting some live reactions from Stony Brook students as the election night unfolds. Take it away, Anjali.
We have Rick McClendon with us tonight.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Of course. What made you come to this watch party tonight?
I'm excited to see students engage in the process. Some of our students are first-time voters in any election, and some students are voting for their first presidential election.
Oh, that's nice. And what are you hoping to see as in terms of election results tonight?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the things that matter most to people come true to life. New policies, procedures, and a new path forward to the ideals of American and things that we hold true to be valuable.
I think that's a really good thought. And what issues are important to you in this election?
Civil rights issues, things that are about people's livelihood, things that put people first. The economy is so important. How we can survive and thrive living in today's world. So those are important things to me.
All right. Thank you for your insight. Please continue watching us as we unfold the story all together. Back to you.
Breaking news out of North Carolina tonight. Democrat Josh Stein officially defeating Mark Robinson in the state's governor's race. Mr. Stein's campaign had focused heavily on education and abortion rights, but his core message was that Mr. Robinson was unfit to lead the state. In September, there was a CNN investigative report that linked Mark Robinson to disturbing comments made on a pornographic website several years ago. Andrew, your thoughts?
I think this is very interesting. You know, they just won the governor position, but as we clearly see on the polls, Donald Trump has this favor right now. Currently leading the polls in North Carolina. So it's just interesting to see how, on the governor aspect, Democrats won, but on the presidential aspect, they are failing. They're behind in that aspect. So it's just very, very, very interesting.
Right, and news out of New Jersey. Andy Kim winning to become the first Korean American senator. A big win.
I think that's extremely key. You know, within this election, one of the biggest focuses has been, you know, first Black African American women to be in office, but now having Andy Kim win in New Jersey, hopefully leading to more policies which are in favor of the Democrats and the minority. So very excited to see that. But updates on the poll as well, Sky. Donald Trump leads 177, Kamala Harris 99.
Excellent. And now, if we turn to this presidential election electoral college map that we have pulled up here in the Stony Brook School of Communication and Journalism television studio, we can see that Kamala Harris is picking up projected wins in the states of Illinois, New Jersey, Delaware, and Rhode Island, while Trump is picking up wins in Oklahoma, Arkansas, Kansas, and a flip on North Carolina. Votes are largely too close to call. At least that's what multiple news agencies are reporting at this time. 270 electoral college votes to win. You can see that while there does appear to be a large amount of red states that have been called at this point, a lot of it is simply too close to call. It's not really fair at this point to make an analysis, a conclusive analysis about who will win this race.
And I think, like you said, like that North Carolina is key. Donald Trump leads with 57% margin, only 41% votes. Only 41% votes have been reported. So it's very interesting to see how North Carolina will play out. Sky, I'm really expecting this to really go down to the wire when it comes to North Carolina.
And now we have a bit of a historical analysis in the studio. Now, for those of you who may be unfamiliar, the electoral college system that the United States runs on requires a candidate to win 270 electoral college votes in order to secure the presidency. And now we see a bit of an analysis of how the electoral college has voted in past elections. All right. Now, we have our reporters, Miriam Gerges and Christopher Yang, live from the Democratic HQ in Suffolk County. Miriam, Chris, please take it away.
Hi, I am with Christian, who's been canvassing with John Avalon's campaign. Christian, how has canvassing been this year?
Canvassing has been quite an experience. It's my first time doing it. I was trying to get my son involved with the campaign. He's going to school for political science, but he couldn't do it, unfortunately. So I decided that I would get involved, and it's been a rewarding experience. There's a lot of great energy out there. Every door is different. Every family has different issues that are important to them. But I think that we had a great ground game, and I think we're going to make a difference in this election.
What do you think of the election season this year?
It's a little nerve-wracking. We're looking to make some really important changes and maybe get away from the gaslighting and the misinformation that's out there and get back to helping middle-class families and the environment and safety and all those important issues that I know people care about.
Thank you so much for your time. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you. So right now we're going to throw it to the Republican HQ. Tommy?
I am here with Assemblyman Ed Flood, who is up for re-election against Rebecca Cassidy. Oh, okay. So, based on tonight's results so far, what policy issues do you think have resonated the most with voters?
So one of the three biggest things were the affordability, the immigration crisis, and the criminal justice reforms on safety of the communities.
I, right. Okay. And also about voter turnout. How important do you think the voter turnout has been in this election cycle compared to the last one?
Well, it's a presidential year, so it's always a little heavier in these years. The numbers I'm seeing aren't drastically different from last year, but we'll see. I mean, the last numbers I saw came from about 5:30, so we'll see what happened in the last 3.5 hours. But it should be a little bit inflated from last year. There seems to be a lot of excitement, at least on our side of the aisle. People are pumped. They want to change the status quo in New York and in the country.
Okay. 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 And what policy initiatives that Republicans have put in place? How have those affected the voters this year in the polls?
Well, I think a lot of it is, we have on the state side, we have some of the highest taxes in the country. We have one of the biggest budgets in the country. It's about how we prioritize how we're spending money. Our initiatives are to cut spending, prioritize New Yorkers first, and we need to drastic changes in our, criminal justice reforms, of which myself and my colleagues have put a lot of different measures forward that we're hoping to get, some more traction next year.
Okay. Thank you so Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tommy, and thank you, Mr. Flood, for joining our broadcast. Now, we've been talking about a lot of the national results tonight, so I'd like to take more of a focus on the local results for New York State and Long Island. Right now, for the U.S. Senate, Christian Gillibrand is in the lead. Only 19% of the votes have been counted, yet she has achieved 70% of those 19% of those votes. A bit confusing there, but
Thomas Azui is leading right now against the seat. 55% leads towards him, with 12% expected total count right now for the vote.
Right, and it is important to note that in the race between Swazi and his appointment, LePetri, only 12% of the expected vote has been counted so far, yet right now Swazi is in just over a 10-point lead. The rest of the votes for New York State, largely there is no available data on them right now. We're going to keep on bringing you those results as the night goes on. We encourage you to stay tuned.
And also, just to add on real quick, because remember in the last live you asked me this, wonderful question. So Iowa right now is in favor of Kamala. So
really,
with an estimated total count of just 9.2% votes. But I think that's just very interesting to see and how that will play a result in the elections as well.
Yeah, folks, it turns out that outlier poll that we were discussing earlier may actually be correct. You said only 9% of total votes are in?
Yeah.
But it is possible that Iowa could switch to Harris, and that would be a historic moment. Now, back to the Union Ballroom Live with Anjali Sinha, getting more reactions as the election results come in from Stony Brook students, administration staff, and faculty. Take it away.
All right. No, don't be. You're amazing. We have Isabel Brehani Schaefer with us tonight. How are you feeling?
Hi, I'm feeling very excited, I think, right now about what's happening with the election. A little apprehensive.
Okay, what makes you come here tonight?
Well, I'm here tonight to support our student organizations that put on this watch party. The Bridges, which is a nonpartisan group that is, its purpose is to get students to talk about the issues and discuss the diverse issues that are surrounding this campaign, a historic campaign.
Have you been following the campaign closely?
I've been following it very closely. There's just so many issues that are important to our students and our community and our country. So I've been listening to all different sides of the campaign.
Absolutely. And is that the reason why, is that what stood out the most for you?
I think what has stood out the most for me is that there are so many important issues that are being discussed right now, that are being brought out into the light, and that the candidates are getting people to talk about.
And if your candidate does not win tonight, what are your next steps?
I'm going to keep making sure that everyone gets registered to vote. and that I pay attention to the important issues, and that I encourage our students to pay attention to the important issues, and that no one gets discouraged, and that people pay attention to the local elections and local politics, which is very important, as well as the national elections.
All right. Thank you so much for your insights. We'll be here having a close eye on the development as they happen. Back to you.
Thank you, Anjali. Now back to the Democratic headquarters. Christopher Yang, our reporter, take it away.
Now back to the local level. I'm Christopher Yang. I'm here with Phyllis Hart, the Democratic, Smith Challenge Democratic Chair. Overall, how do you feel about the culmination of everything for today's night?
I think we're going to hear wonderful news. We're going to get the results that we want. So proud of the groundswell and the canvassing and the phone banking. Was down at the university today for a couple of hours. I was really taken back by the amount of students that showed up to vote. Thought it was beautiful. A lot of first-time voters. We've had a lot of grassroots movement going on. Up with the mic. A lot of grassroots movement going on, but very impressed with the college. Very impressed with everything that's going on in Smithtown. We knocked on 6,000 doors, so I mean, it's been tremendous. It's been tremendous, you know.
How does it feel for just overall everything to culminate for this night?
We're very positive. We think we're going to get the results that we want. We think we're going to get Harris as president and all of our local election. We think we're going to take back Congress, and we think we're going to flip a couple of seats. So we're very happy.
Thank you so much for your time. Back to you at the desk.
And some breaking news out of Florida at this hour. The New York Times is reporting that a measure that would have enshrined abortion rights in the state's constitution has failed in the election. Now, abortion has been an extremely contentious issue. One of the top issues for voters actually in this election. One of the driving factors that the Harris campaign has seized on as the Trump administration has taken a more relaxed approach to it, allowing states to sort of choose their own path with abortion rights. But the Harris campaign has really focused, saying that if they were to win the office, that they would make sure it is enshrined in the rights for every American. But this new amendment in Florida that would have enshrined abortion rights in the state constitution has failed. It did not meet the 60% people voting yes to be enshrined in the state's constitution. Thoughts?
I think that's just very important. Like you said, it was one of the biggest driving forces when it came to Harris's, campaign, and it just not being able to be successful. I think that just speaks to the mind of the people. But we're going to send it off to Miles, who just has more on the election and the polling results.
And we are back in the studio. Erwan, so much is happening right now. I mean, let's talk about it. We have Pennsylvania. It seems to be that Harris is leading so far. Not all that vote is in just yet, but I really want to pay attention to northern Pennsylvania. Now we see Erie, Pennsylvania, and the area right next to it is leaning blue and probably would go for Harris. Now we have the rest of the top of Pennsylvania usually steers Republican and is probably going for this election. I think that that's pretty interesting. I also want to point out from our national standpoint, the wall in the Northeast, Harris has pretty much got, she's, I'm talking about the New England territory, Vermont, New Hampshire, New York, pretty much a stronghold for her. Pretty interesting. Yeah. What are some of your takes on the other states?
Well, first of all, I just want to say Pennsylvania is one that we really have to look out for. We always look out for Pennsylvania. It really makes or breaks an election. But I actually wanted to talk about states like Utah, Arizona, New Mexico. Surprisingly, New Mexico is actually pretty blue right now, right? And as we talked about, immigration is a huge topic right now. Utah, I am going to predict that it is going to go red just because of the huge Mormon population and all that. But what is most surprising to me isn't even that. It's the fact that the presidential, Senate, House, and governor are all leading Republican.
Leading red as of now. Yeah, that's actually really interesting that you say that now, because we think back to the 2020 election.
Right.
Now, in the beginning of the election, the presidential side, at least, was leaning red in the beginning, but we didn't see the all-red wave in all of the categories. This is pretty interesting. We also have to keep in mind that during 2020, we saw that big blue wave later when the mail-in ballots were being counted in later. So, also
that
pretty
is true.
interesting.
That is true because states like Alaska and Hawaii have not even started counting, and it's predicted that they won't even get into the actual count until tomorrow. Wow. States like California were still waiting until 11 p.m.
Right. Yeah, it's honestly, it's really up for grabs. Pretty interesting. I really want to zoom in. I think I mentioned it earlier in the broadcast. Now, Illinois is actually trending towards Harris, and I think that it's going to be called for Harris. I'm pretty sure you can check me on that. And then Iowa, we go back to this Des Moines poll that was called by Ann Seltzer a day ago.
Right.
Now, if Iowa continues to trend in this direction, this is really going to really going to serve as precedent for the other battleground states. Now, the votes aren't all in yet, but we see that Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania are all trending blue right now, so that's really something to look out for.
Right.
What else? What about the South? What are we talking about?
The South. Well, the South we expected that. Once again, Florida is still a huge shock to me, especially because of all the natural disasters that have hit. But certain states I wasn't really expecting, states such as like Louisiana, I was not expecting it to go red, but it did go red, Also states such as Alabama, Mississippi, like we knew it was going to lean that way.
It's very interesting. It's a tight race to call. We have to head back to the studio right now, but we'll be back to you guys with more updates. Stay tuned.
I think that's just very interesting. Trump is doing much better in Virginia than he did 4 years ago when he lost by 10 points. We're seeing how in many places several years back where he was just doing terribly, he's doing much better, in which I think credit to the campaign, but also just a difference in how the needs of the American people has shifted within these 4 years. So I think that's really big. But we're going to send it off to Tom and the Republican Watch Party.
I'm here with Nick Caracappa, who is a member of the 4th Legislative District of Suffolk County. Okay, so Nick.
Yes.
With the results that have come in so far for various states, how do you feel about the Republican Party's chances of winning the presidency?
I feel great about that. I mean, look at the numbers. Early numbers are coming in. People coming out to vote. People want change. People are tired of being overlooked, especially in the middle-class communities. We got issues with our border. We got issues with work. We got issues with the economy. We got issues all over the place. Time for a change. I think we see that red support come out tonight, and the change is coming tonight. It's going to be a great night for the Republican and Conservative Party and the families of the United States of America.
Absolutely. Okay. And then with all these endorsements from key Republicans in the party, how impactful do you think they have been to the race?
The key endorsements?
Exactly.
Well, again, I mean, look around. Look at the energy in this room. Look at the energy around this country. Look at the early voting numbers in Suffolk County. People want to be represented. People are going to come out. The endorsements came out ringingly, so, it's just another compliment of what America can be again, what we used to be, strong, respected, and united. We have to be united. We all have to come together under one leadership. Once and for all, being divided is no good. So I'm hoping this new president, President Trump, will bring us together.
Thank you so much. Let's go back to the studio with Sky and Andrew.
Thanks, guys.
All right. New reporting analysis in from the New York Times. The paper is reporting that the race for the first time tonight is leaning towards a Trump victory with a 69% chance of victory. The current counts on the Electoral College. Harris has won 99 Electoral College votes. Trump has won 178. As a reminder to those of you at home, 270 Electoral College votes are needed in order to secure the presidency. Polls in all but one battleground state are now closed. And it's looking to be a really tight race, but it does appear to be leaning more towards a Trump victory at this hour. Thoughts?
And I think what's going to come down to is Pennsylvania. As Sarah Baxter said, has the most electoral votes out of any state. So I'm really thinking that's going to be key to a Harris victory. Right now, it's a lot of absentee ballots, which represents most of the votes for the Democrats. So it will be interesting to see how the Republican Party and the Republican constituents have just turned out to vote in Pennsylvania. So I think it's really going to come down to Pennsylvania.
Right, and Pennsylvania's status as, it has the most electoral votes available out of every single swing state, right? So that leads it to have a unique, commodity for the two campaigns, both who want to secure the state to win. It's looking very much like our professor Sarah Baxter explained to us, that Pennsylvania is going to be the most important state for either the Trump or Harris campaign to win tonight. And now,
I think before that, I think it's also key. Let's not count North Carolina. With a total of 58% of votes in right now, Trump leads 51, while Kamala is 47. So there's still a chance. There's still that margin, but there's still a chance that Democrats could pull to win North Carolina as well.
Democrats can pull to win North Carolina as well. And as we reported earlier, the scandal surrounding Mark Robinson from September's CNN report appears to have cost him his governor's seat. Now, Anjali, in the Union, getting more reactions as the election results come in. Take it away.
So I'll ask you two questions. What motivated you? We have Lauren here tonight with us. Hi, Lauren. How are you feeling tonight?
Oh, it's going to be a long night, but I'm excited, hoping for the best.
What brings you here to this watch party tonight?
Well, I wanted to support Kamala, and I think that it's really an enjoyable experience to, watch the election outcome with people who I care about, my friends. So that's why I'm here.
And what are your opinions about the issues that are in stake in this election?
Well, I'm very much in support of Proposition 1 to, bring the Equal Rights Amendment to New York State. I think that's really great. I'm also, as a voter in Suffolk County, I'm really big on Prop 2, because water quality is a really important issue out here. So those are the issues that I'm really most focused on in this election. But overall, I'm just really nervous and anxiously watching as the results come in.
All right. Thank you for your insight. Stay tuned as we discover more. Back to you.
Now, Miriam Gurgis reporting from the Democratic Watch Party here in Suffolk County. Miriam?
Hi, I'm here with Ore, who's a Suffolk resident here at the Watch Party. Ore, what do you think of this election season versus the previous election seasons?
It's very different. There's a lot of stress. People are tired. People are grasping for information. There's so much disinformation, misinformation, and there's a lot of anger. And I think people are tired. Also, there's been more money placed in this election from large corporations thanks to Citizens United, and it takes the voice away from people, and it looks like the people benefiting from Citizens United in many ways has bought America.
Thank you so much. Back to you at the desk.
So I think one of the key things we discuss is battleground states, and just looking at the polls right now, Trump leads in Georgia. Michigan has Harris leading, Wisconsin has Harris leading, and Pennsylvania has Harris leading. What are your thoughts? Do you think it's gonna still stay in favor of Harris, or do you think it's gonna flip?
I think it's a toss-up. I wish I could give you a more definite answer, but the reality is I don't know. And I think the other reality is that even though some news organizations are projecting that the race is leaning towards Trump at this time, no one really knows. The election is still a toss-up. It is certainly leaning in the direction of a Trump victory, but we don't know for sure. And that's going to be one of the most interesting things to watch as this time goes on. Now, in Virginia, we've got a 50% of votes have gone towards Trump so far, while just over 48% of votes have gone towards Harris. Thoughts?
I think that's really big. It's really neck and neck. Even looking at the current results right now, the live results, it's 49.9% leaning towards Trump and 48.4% going towards Harris. So this is going to be clearly a big battle. A big battle in Virginia. So I'm interested to see how it will go. Considering before the results were much leading towards Trump, it was seen as a easy landslide victory for him there. But now it's looking like it's going in favor of Harris.
Right. Now, Miles and Arlon in the newsroom.
And we are back in the newsroom. Erlon, this is a nail biter. Talk about this New York Times prediction.
Yeah, so, apparently from the New York Times, there's a 70% outcome of Trump winning. But it did go down 2 points, to 68%. However, the big numbers are also coming in at 178 for Trump from Associated Press, AP. And Harris has not even started the 3-digit range. Miles,
yeah, I mean, honestly, this can be anybody's election at this point. I just want to stress that with all this new information coming in and discussions that we've been having off camera,
right.
Pennsylvania is really going to be crucial in this race. Now that we see that Indiana and Ohio, 2 of those Great Lakes states that I was mentioning earlier, have now been called for Trump, or at least are leaning very Republican heavy. I'm correcting what I said earlier with Wisconsin. Wisconsin was leaning Republican now, and now it's leaning Democrat, sorry. And the same thing with Michigan. So it all goes back to this Iowa poll. I keep telling you guys.
No, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But at first Kansas was blue, and as I predicted, they are now turning out red with 45% of the votes counted.
Right. Yeah. And also a very important thing to recognize and to pay attention to are the urban areas versus the rural counties and suburbs.
Right.
Now, we can, as I said earlier, for example, Atlanta and Fulton County, like that area of Summerhill, Georgia, that can be very crucial in this election if, the Democrats, for example, want to pull a win in Georgia like they did 4 years ago. Then again, we do have the surrounding counties that can offset that vote. Yeah.
That's true. And New Mexico is going back to red. It was blue, then it was red, now it's red again.
We're doing a whole bunch of flip-flopping here.
We are. We are.
Yeah. New Mexico it's going back to red. We have Colorado right now is leaning blue. It's just really interesting as these things come in. Very interesting how, and I'm wrapping this up here, that the western states literally haven't even started at all, or we haven't received any,
Yeah, as well as like Alaska and Hawaii.
Yeah. We don't know what's going on. Stay tuned, guys. We're going to throw it back to the anchor desk. We'll have more for you shortly after this.
Thank you, Miles. And this just in New York, we passed the Equal Rights Amendment, which is tied to abortion access, safeguarding and protections for abortion or for those who are, discriminated against. What are your thoughts on that?
Right. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is an amendment to the New York State Constitution. It's very important. It was an amendment that was heavily pushed by civil rights groups and other left-leaning organizations in the lead up to this election. One of 6 propositions on the ballot to New York City voters. But this one was a big one. It's a big victory for those who support abortion access in New York State. And it is, pretty much the opposite of that amendment that failed in Florida that we were telling you about just a few minutes ago, right?
Yeah. So now we're gonna send it off to the union for more.
Hey, we have Luke with us here today.
Hello.
How are you feeling, Luke?
I'm feeling good. I like where the numbers are going tonight.
And what made you attend this watch party tonight?
I think it was a good way to be engaged and discuss things politically with fellow students in a way that seems very educated and non-confrontational.
And what's the important issue in this election for you?
For me, it's a lot of the economic policy. I read a lot of things that Trump's supporting economically, and a lot of people that he's planning to take out, like the person at the FTC, which I'm a little worried about, and some deflationary policies that I don't agree with. For me, that's the big sticking point.
You mentioned results before, so what's your take on the results so far that's been happening?
I'm kind of worried about Georgia. I think Trump's ahead a little bit far for Kamala to catch up, but a lot of the other states like Pennsylvania and Michigan, I think she has a good lead right now. I think she has a good chance of winning.
All right, thank you again for your time. Back to you in the studio.
And now, Christopher Yang reporting live from the Democratic Watch Party here in Suffolk County to gauge the reactions of those attending. Chris?
So could you stand a little bit closer, just with the camera? Fair enough. Okay. I'm here with John, a Smithtown resident who has done some canvassing as well as just calls overall for John Avalon. First, how do you think political turnout, the poll turnout has been here at Stony Brook and overall the Suffolk County District 1?
Well, I understand early voting in Kings Park, they told me 18,000. I don't know if we didn't have early voting, how everybody would have voted. There are so many more people apparently voting this year than under normal conditions, when it's usually a very small percentage.
That's very nice. Another question is just, how has this election been different from past elections?
I think fear. The reason I say fear is that a lot of people fear if a certain person gets elected, life will not be as pleasant as it used to be.
Right. Overall, I mean, then, now that everything has culminated to today, how do you feel about the atmosphere of the room?
The atmosphere of the room is hopeful, although Democrats in this part of the world are not as hopeful as they can be based on reality. It's a tough run. We're definitely a blue-collar, reddish kind of place.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, John. Now back to you at the desk.
Now, let's take a look at this New York Times needle so far that we've been referencing in our coverage throughout the night. You can see that the needle so far says that there is a 66% of a Donald Trump victory. Andrew, thoughts?
That actually went down. Wasn't it reported at 68 before?
Yeah, we can look on, this was just a social media post, so we can look live on the website right now. Let me take a look. So Trump right now is actually at a 70% chance of victory. That's according to the latest update from the New York Times. An interesting strategy. Republicans are feeling more and more confident as the night goes on. Now, in other news, a measure that would have legalized recreational marijuana for adults 21 years and older has failed to pass in Florida. Now voters have rejected this initiative that would have helped legalize recreational marijuana. It faced a lot of opposition from the governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, and Florida Republican leaders. Another interesting amendment that has failed so far. Now, back to the Union Watch Party, Anjali.
So we have Rick with us tonight.
Hello. I guess I'm the president of the Stony Brook College Democrats and the treasurer of the Political Science Society.
And what makes you come here, Rick, for the watch party?
I do a lot of organizing for a lot of the events. So like this one, the Meet the Candidate stuff, I've put a lot of time and effort making sure they run.
All right. And what are your important issues in this election?
So my important issue is healthcare and abortion. My other one is public transit, but no one really cares about that one. So those are the two main ones.
And do you think this election will affect students like you? And if you do, then how?
I think it will. Biden's done a lot more, I guess, efforts to try to like cancel student debts, while Trump really didn't. And I guess it'll affect a lot of my friends if something were to happen, because Kamala cares a lot more about abortion than Trump does.
All right. Thank you for giving us your time. Please stand by as the election results develop even more. Thank you. Back to you in the studio.
This just in. Trump is currently leading in Wisconsin. Is currently a big neck-and-neck race with him having 49 points. It actually just changed. Harris is leading. So it's clearly a big neck-and-neck race. Miles, do you have more on this?
Yes, this is really a neck-and-neck race. I mean, one thing that me and Erlon were talking about, we also have the whole western United States, the whole western coast that hasn't even, begun to be pushing out results yet. So that can play a huge factor in the way that things are going to swing. I was also, and as I'm looking right now, we have Missouri leaning red. This is very interesting. Me and Erlon were just talking about how Texas is now red. There was talk in the media leading up to the election that Texas could potentially become a blue state, but I don't think that they're there just yet. What do you think, Erlon?
Well, honestly, I'm not gonna lie. Texas, historically, it's always been red. But on top of that, you have to also remember, like California, Arizona, those states, they're a couple hours behind us, right? So, you know, Harris.
And the different times where the polls are closing and stuff like
Yeah.
that. There's different factors.
Yeah, Harris,
Correct.
she's sweeping California.
Right, yeah.
We know that. But also to report too, the Senate and the House Democratic Party has both lost one seat, and the Republican have gained a seat.
Wow. It's also interesting if we take a look at our, well, if you guys are at homes, you have your phones, your maps in your hands. But I'm looking at Minnesota. It's leaning Republican so far. I do think that that is subject to change, given that Minnesota was a state that was won by Biden and Harris on the Biden-Harris ticket 4 years ago. So I think that the Democrats could pull out a win for Minnesota. Iowa, I'm continuing my spiel about the Des Moines poll and all that stuff.
Right.
I do think that Iowa could possibly sway towards the Democrats.
Yeah.
And we're still looking at Virginia and North Carolina. We don't know. It's
Right,
neck
and
neck.
looking at the big numbers again, Trump is close to 200.
Yeah.
You know, he's currently at 188. Harris is still at 99. Right?
Wow. Just a lot of updates coming in. We're going to throw it back to you guys in the studio. We'll have more for you for the rest of the broadcast. Back to you guys.
And now Thomas Pardo coming to us live from the Republican headquarters in Suffolk County, gauging the reactions of those present. Thomas?
With all the results that have come in so far, with all the results, there is a sense of a ton of positivity in this room, and also among the people who I've spoken to so far. And currently, the electoral votes 178 for Donald Trump and 79 for Kamala Harris. So back to the studio.
Now, in Maryland, Democrat Angela also Brooks defeating Larry Hogan in the Maryland Senate race. This is a particular notable race. Also, Brooks is the first openly transgender member of Congress after winning this election. What do you think?
I think that's very important. With every election, we always talk about having people who represent us. As we are young, we want that representation. People who could represent people from diverse backgrounds, sexualities, and religions. I think just for her to have that victory and really be in that position of representation and power to represent people who are transgender and who are within that community, I think it's very key to fight for those rights and fight for those equal rights as well.
Right, now we are seeing a lot of firsts this election. First out of New Jersey, the first Korean American member of Congress, and now Angela also Brooks, first openly transgender member of Congress. Now back to the Union of Anjali.
We have Kevin VC here with us tonight. Hi, Kevin. How are you feeling tonight?
Hey, Anjali. Doing well, thanks. I'm a reporter with News 12 here to cover this watch party, what you students are doing. And it's, I just have to say, it's so nice to see all these young people, these students, so closely involved in the political process and keeping a close eye on it. It's really great to see.
Thank you, Kevin. What are the important issues that mean something to you in this election?
Yeah, so, first off, we're going to watch these results come in, and I think that we're seeing some very interesting results already. We're watching a lot of the swing states closely, of course, but also there are some states that, maybe were thought to be pretty big strongholds for certain parties that might be, a little closer than we had thought and could be swinging the other way, perhaps. Like right now, Virginia is a lot closer than we had initially thought. So that's a state that we're going to be keeping a close eye on as the results continue to come in. Also, I think the blue wall states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin are also going to be very important to watch.
So if your candidate does not win tonight's election, what's going to be the next step for the supporters?
Well, I mean, listen, I think that in all, the country should unify around one leader, around basically the country should stand united under whatever circumstances evolve tonight. So I'd like to see that, but first we have to see who wins this election.
Thank you for your time again. It's fascinating to hear different perspectives. Thank you so much for your time again. Stay tuned. Back to you.
Thanks, Anjali. Great to hear from you, and great to hear from Kevin Vesey over from News 12 Long Island. Now, if we look at this map that we've got pulled up, we can see that the current Electoral College count, Harris has currently won 99 of the Electoral College seats. Trump is pretty far ahead at 178 votes won at this current moment.
Yeah, the updated one is 188. So
188. We apologize. 99 to 188. Again, as a reminder, 270 Electoral College votes are needed to win this election. Now, if we look over at the states, we can see there's quite a lot of red on this map. But Pennsylvania, it does appear to be leaning more towards the Democratic side. Good news for the Harris campaign, as it is the most sought after state right now in this election, as we heard from Professor Baxter at the start of this hour. Andrew, do you have any other thoughts?
I think it's really big. Just looking at the states, the important states right now, Trump is making a comeback in Pennsylvania, where Harris held a 54% lead. She is now holding a 50% lead, with Trump being 48.7%, and currently in Wisconsin is 49.2% each. So this is just a testament of how much of a battle this is going to be, and it's really going to be neck and neck between both candidates.
Absolutely. Now we have Miles and Arlon continuing our analysis from the School of Communication and Journalism newsroom. Two of you, take it away.
Yes, we're back in the studio, and now the both of us are really looking at how this race is really trending in the Republicans' favor. Now, across all three of the categories within government, but especially within the presidential race. I mean, Aaron, 99 electoral votes for Harris and 188 for Trump. What do you make of this?
You know, honestly, that is quite surprising. You know, especially because of all the predictions that have happened.
And it is early on, so
it is early on.
Yeah.
That is very true. But then it's also like with states that have high minority rates, you also see that they did also tend to be Republican, and that was a little surprising to me. But then you also do have to remember that people tend to say that they're more Democratic than they actually are, especially when they're around people of color, you know? So with 80% of the vote in Georgia, you know, going, and then it's still being red, honestly, I'm not too surprised about that.
Yeah. I also wanted to highlight now in the South, obviously, historically, the South has leaned more Republican for the most part. And in certain elections, we can see the urban areas tend to sway the states more towards the Democratic side, or you see like a little bit of that. They may not swing that way, but you do see a little bit of that. In this election, I'm really not seeing that. We're getting the counties that are very closely bordered to these southern cities, for example, Atlanta, Georgia, Baton Rouge, Orlando, Florida. You know, they are really leaning more Republican. So I am seeing that red wave so far, but then again, it is too close to call right now for everyone, but we are going to send it back into the studio with more results.
And now we're going to take it back to the Republican headquarters here in Suffolk County with Thomas Pardo.
I am here with Stephen Farmer in the legislature from West Islip in Suffolk County. Okay, so with the results that have come so far, how do you think the efforts that Republicans in state legislatures have affected the race?
Well, I say very hardworking. I mean, even myself, I was out today going door to door for some of the people that did not go out for early voting to make sure they didn't begin. These people have busy lives and they come home from work and they don't want to find out after, oh, I forgot. So out there working. It's my understanding, I believe Suffolk County had the highest Republican turnout, second highest Republican turnout of any county Well, we are a big county with a lot of population too.
Absolutely, but that turnout is stunning. Yeah. And then and, and then with Republicans' message on, and then with Republicans' message on the economy, you know,
On the economy,
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
No problem. Also,
Now, Trump currently leading in Pennsylvania. Current results show that now Pennsylvania is the most crucial battleground states for the two campaigns to focus on this year. Trump currently has the lead. Too early to tell who's going to take the state for their respective campaign, though. What do you think?
I think, we've been discussing, Pennsylvania is very pivotal for Kamala. So just seeing that neck and neck battle, I think for the Democrats, it doesn't look too promising. But just in with Trump having 49.6% and Kamala 49.5%, Pennsylvania is going to be a real battleground right now.
Now, currently, the New York Times forecasting that Trump has a 72% chance of taking the presidency. We are going back to the Union with Anjali for more live reactions as the results come in.
We have David with here tonight. Hi, David. How are you feeling tonight?
Feeling great. I'm just watching the election. I came here today to see who's going to win this election and see people's views. Yeah.
And what are the important issues for in this election for you?
I would say my important issues like reproductive rights. I mean, I have a lot of family members who are female, so I'll say that's something that's very important to me. Another issue I would say that's important to me is like the right to vote. Like today, like injustice being served like around the world or like in America, black people getting the chance like get laws that could protect us, and so certain like things are like important to me.
Do you think students should engage in elections, and why?
Yes, I think students should be engaged in elections because we are the future generation. So we should be voting for people who we believe in. So if those people are able to do their job, they'll be able to set up a better future for us. And especially for people of color, I think it's better for us to vote because my ancestors fought for us to have the right to vote. So if you have this chance and you're a young adult, you should definitely vote.
All right. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with us here tonight. Thank you so much. Stay tuned as the story develops. Back to you.
With Senator Joe Manchin retiring, West Virginia's vacant Senate seat has gone to Republican. Sorry about that.
Let me check. But also with that being said too, it's just in Trump holds Utah and Montana. So bringing him up to 198 electoral college votes, while Harris still stands at 99 electoral votes. And Pennsylvania, is currently still battling right now. Harris is at 49.7, while Donald Trump is at 49.4, and Wisconsin is still looking like a tight race as well, with Trump being at 49.8 and Harris being at 48.7. So it's a clear indicator that this is going to be a tight race. It's going to come down to these two important states, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, for the Harris campaign.
Now we have some graphics to show you on the United States Senate race. All right, 48% of precincts reporting here in New York. Gillibrand is projected to win the New York State Senate race. And this was projected beforehand. Not much of a surprise. She's been a member of the Senate for a very long time at this point. So she was elected back into her position and will serve another term. Nothing crazy there. She has won a great amount of votes, though. So those are some local results for you guys watching. Any thoughts, Andrew?
So right now it's looking like Colorado is going to favor Harris currently with 45% of estimated votes counted. So that's a good win on the Democrats' part. But it's still coming down to these battleground states. Pennsylvania keeps changing between Harris and Trump. So very curious to see that. And it's looking like Wisconsin is going to go back in favor of Harris. So very excited for that. Very excited to see the results.
Right. Now Miles and Arlon in the newsroom.
Yes, we are back in the newsroom, Airline and I, and we were just discussing how back in, back in 2020 and these previous 4 years, I feel like we're seeing a lot of this Republican turnout because a lot of people have made their minds already if they were going to vote Democratic or Republican before Harris was pushed to the top of the ticket. Any thoughts on that, Erlen?
Yeah, I was going to say, the red wave is because of Biden's craze. Like, I'm going to tell you this right now. You see, because Harris was already in office for the past 4 years and all of this has happened, it kind of already turned people off from her, which might explain why she still has not hit the 100 mark yet, and Trump is so close to 200.
Right, and obviously, you know, all of this is still coming in. These are all predictions and, you know, not quite sure yet what we're going to see, but I will say it is very, very interesting. I didn't see many predictions of Trump, it being overwhelmingly Republican leaning and Trump, you know, taking it away with the race early on. Now, I date back to 2020. We did see this, but it wasn't on this large of a scale. So I feel like it's very, very, very interesting when we speak about those parts.
Right.
I'm just looking right here, New Mexico and Arizona. Not a lot of the votes are in just yet, but they're leading Republican.
But you know what, Miles?
Yeah. So. What? And yeah, we have pretty much a stronghold in the South, but yeah.
I was just going to say my Utah prediction did come in. Utah is overwhelmingly
red.
Yeah, but states like Arizona and New Mexico, I was not expecting it to be that red. Yeah. Even though for New Mexico, only 21% of the votes are in. But so far, there's like a, 7% difference between Trump and Harris.
Margins are pretty close. We'll be back with more. Back to you guys at the studio.
Now, back to the Democratic HQ with Miriam Gerges.
The atmosphere here has been pretty good. There are a lot of more people have been showing up. We have people watching for updates. People have been socializing and talking about politics. I've heard that John Avalon has shown up here, and we're waiting to get a couple comments from him. Back to you at the desk.
So this just in, currently Trump is leading in Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So they're still going neck and neck and battling. Right now, Trump does have a good percentage with 50.2 and Harris being 48.2 in Wisconsin. In Pennsylvania, Trump has 50.1 while Harris has 48.9. So it's been going back and forth. They're neck and neck, just a couple thousand votes away from each other currently.
All right, now to Union with Anjali.
I can't hear them in this.
We have Michelle here with us tonight. Hi, Michelle. How are you feeling tonight?
A little bit nervous, but I'm trying to stay as calm as I can. I feel pretty good so far.
And what motivated you to come to this watch party?
Well, I'm a staff writer for The Statesman, so I am covering a piece on it, but I chose to take this piece. I do think it's really important for me to be educated on this, also because I do somewhat care about politics. Another big reason I'm also here and I took the story was because I do want to actively see all the results as they're coming in.
That's wonderful. Are you hoping for a specific result tonight?
Tonight, I mean, I am hoping for Harris to win. I did go out and vote myself, so that is who I'm hoping to see win for tonight, yeah.
How do you think how much important it is for students to engage in elections?
Well, I think it's really important just because I think there's sometimes a common misconception with students that they're not educated enough or they're too nervous to vote, especially sometimes I feel like students can get caught up in the idea that maybe their vote doesn't matter, but it really does, especially students in swing states. So I think it's really important to stay educated, especially because we are a young generation. It is going to matter, and these are issues that we're going to have to deal with in the upcoming years based on what each candidate wants to focus on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for taking the time and talking to us tonight. As the time progresses, anticipation and excitement are running high up in the air. We'll keep you posted. Back to you.
All right, so what else is going on tonight that we should be looking at, Andrew?
So we're looking at, Harris has the lead in Michigan currently. In New Mexico, Trump has 52.3% leading there. In Arizona, 49.6, both candidates. So that's also another state which is clearly neck and neck. It's going back and forth with 34.3% votes counted. So it's very interesting to see that. Kansas is going in favor of Trump right now, with him leading with 52%. And in Iowa, we were talking about that. Right now, it's actually leading in favor of Trump with 51.2%, and Kamala having 47.5%. So a lot of these states are going in favor of Republicans.
Now we have Anjali back at the Stony Brook Union Ballroom. My computer's like freezing up.
You're feeling, Dana?
Donnelly. Yes, I am, a little tired. I've been here talking to students. We have our event going on in the Unity Cultural Center, our chill, coffee, and countdown. And we've been having events all day, and we'll have events all week for debriefing. So just trying to keep up with the students' needs right now.
How do you feel about the candidates up and running in this election?
I am having a lot of flashbacks to previous elections when I lived in other states, and some memories are great and some memories are not so great. So right now, it's a lot of mixed emotions trying to mitigate that anxiety.
What are some important issues in this election for you?
Well, in my role as Director of Diversity, Intercultural, and Community Engagement, access for students are super important. And supporting especially immigrant students, we have a new role opening up in my area for supporting immigrant and undocumented students. So those are super important issues for me and in my role.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for taking the time and talking to us with her tonight. Thank you so much. Please stay tuned as the results develop. Thank you.
Now Thomas Pardo reporting live once again from the Republican County headquarters here in Suffolk County. Tommy?
I am here representing Joey Giglio, and I'm going to ask about the results of tonight's results. So, how do you think the measures on the economy, taxes, the inflation, and also the migration crisis have affected the votes tonight?
I think it's a really important issue. I think New York State has a spending problem, and their priorities are all out of whack. We've forgotten about our veterans, our seniors, our people with disabilities, and we're sending money to people that have never paid taxes in New York State. And the taxpayers are having a really hard time at the grocery stores. Their cars are breaking down. They're trying to get to work. The interest rate for car loans is way too high. Our youth, the job opportunities don't exist, even though they said they were going to create a green economy 4 years ago, and we haven't seen that green economy. So there's a lot of people that are out of work, a lot of people on unemployment, a lot of fraud to people that could work and aren't working. And we need to get everybody back to work, and that's what keeps the economy going, with everybody working towards the same goal of prosperity for our families, for our kids, and great jobs.
And then with this like, Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's send back to studio with Sky and Andrew.
Now we will be throwing it to Chris, who's at the Democratic Watch Party.
Hi, I'm with Michael Reynolds, who's running for the 5th District of the New York Assembly State. Michael, how do you feel about all the campaigning and that got you up to this point?
So I feel really good about it. It's actually been a lesson for me. I'm a first-time candidate running. I spent most of my life in the private sector working for business. So I jumped into the race in April, and I'm happy that I actually did it. I learned a lot of lessons. And for me, I enjoyed the process, and I believe the voter turnout will be high tonight. So I think it'll carry me through to the finish line.
How do you feel about the voter turnout that has been happening?
So it looks really good. A lot of enthusiasm. We have Kamala at the top of the ticket. We have John Avalon running for Congress. I'm running for Assembly. We have great candidates up and down the Democratic ticket. I believe the residents and the voters will really be happy if they elect us to do, the work for them.
How do you feel about the atmosphere in this room here?
Oh, it's incredible. You see everybody came out. Everybody's excited. They're enthused. They're looking at the results slowly but surely on the monitor over there. And everything looks great. No way but up.
Okay, thank you so much for your time. Back to you at the desk.
You're very welcome. Thank you.
So we're still looking at these battleground states. Right now, Harris is leading within Wisconsin with 49.3%, while Trump is 49.2. So you're really seeing again how within these states it's a big battle with 40.3% votes counted. How are you feeling about Pennsylvania? What are your thoughts? You know, right now Trump is leading 50.6%, but it's clearly been going back and forth. What are your thoughts regarding Pennsylvania?
I think it's a toss-up. I think that
definitely.
We know about how important it is that Sarah Baxter talked to us about it, but we're going to have to continue watching Pennsylvania as the night goes on, as well as the other swing states.
And there's a 79 point, now it's even going up within the New York Times. It's leading Trump 79%. So it's just very interesting to see the different results, different projections, some of them being wrong, some of them being correct in a lot of their manners. So
certainly, Democrats might be starting to feel nervous at this point. Now, Anjali in the Union.
How are you?
I'm good. What motivated you to come to this watch party tonight?
I saw it around. I saw it on Quirk, and I could have watched the election at the TV in my dorm, but I decided to come out, kind of taking the energy of being in a public space, watching the election results. You know, hoping we get a result tonight. I don't know if we're gonna get a result tonight, but I really do hope so. So I can go to bed on time and wake up for class tomorrow.
Amazing. Why do you think like young people should be in the process of election and how important it is?
I mean, if you look at our current government, a lot of people that are in government are around age of like 40, 50, 60 years old, and I feel like we're not being adequately represented by our own legislation. And I think it's definitely important for young people to get more active in politics, whether it be by volunteering, whether it be by even running for a position, or just simply donating money. And of course, the simplest way I think young people can get involved is just to go out and vote. And that's exactly what I did today as well. And a lot of people I know as well.
All right, thank you for giving us the time. Thank you so much for sharing your opinions. Stay tuned as the story develops even more. Back to you.
Now, Miles and Arlan, continue our analysis of the ever-coming election results in our newsroom.
And we are back in the newsroom. Now, Arlan, I'm telling you, these western states, I'm really curious to see what the outcome is going to be for that. That's going to really determine where the trajectory of this race is going to be going. The gap looks quite large in the Electoral College vote. At least we have Trump coming in at 198 and Harris at 109. And I'm just seeing Arizona and New Mexico flip blue in Harris's favor, projected blue in her favor, I should say. What do you think about the Western states? What are their role to play?
Well, something that was very important to note was that earlier off screen, some of Oregon's votes did come in, as you know, Oregon is the home of pine trees. You know, that's where we get our Rockefeller tree every year. And as we also know, Trump does not believe in climate change. So it was actually very surprising to see that the little bit of votes that did come in for Oregon were in Trump's favor, almost 50%. Right. But what's even more important, and this is why I preface watching Pennsylvania has flipped. It's red now.
It has flipped. Yeah, it is red now. That is very, very interesting. Now, and as I mentioned before, we could take the South for an example. For these largely urban communities and cities leaning more Democratic, and then the surrounding counties not following suit and leaning more Republican. Now, when you look at Pennsylvania, I think that this might follow the same track that we're seeing that is very unique in this election, right. That the counties closer to the bigger cities are more Republican than they have in the past years, and it's really going to come down to that. I'm looking at northern Pennsylvania, as I said before. Warren, Pennsylvania has now flipped over to Trump's favor. It's going to probably go to Trump. Erie is still holding off strong for Kamala Harris. I'm surprised that Erie is even up there. Now we know northern Pennsylvania, that rural part, is usually reliably red.
Right.
So just very interesting things coming from this election. This is something that I've never seen before. I'm doing a lot of comparisons to the 2020 election, and yeah, I mean, it's a lot is going on.
But that does just highlight how important it is to always vote. That just highlights how important it is to always vote. Like, as we're seeing all these numbers come in, things are constantly flipping, and those votes that are not there, those votes that are supposed to be counted that are not counted,
We still don't know. We don't know.
Election.
Yeah, we don't know. As I really am at a loss for words for how much I really do not know. Let's see. I would have expected Idaho, for example, to be called for Trump's favor, just like how North Carolina, how I predicted. But then again, we have to remember different states' polls close at different times. Yeah, I'm still keeping my close eye on Virginia and North Carolina. I know that they are trending red so far for Trump. However, I do think that the Harris-Walz ticket does have a chance of flipping those states blue. I think it's going to be a really close margin, but those are my predictions. What are your predictions for anything, everyone?
Well, actually, right in this moment, Harris did climb up to 112 now.
Wow.
She's getting
for the electoral college vote count. Yeah.
Yes, correct. But states as Arizona, New Mexico, states very close to the border. Now we are seeing as more votes are coming in, that it is also trending Democratic.
Wow, that's very interesting because once they first popped up on the screen, they
were
overwhelmingly Republican. But again, it's just these percentage points. Now, one thing I'd really like to say, which makes this race really, really hard to track, is that the margins in each state are so close. Well, not each state, but a lot of them. You know what I mean? Which makes it really hard to call and makes it even harder for us to tell the viewers, this is what we're going to have.
For a while, what was it? Arizona was stuck at 49.6, split both ways, right?
Right, yeah. That was very interesting. And then that's Arizona. I also predict for this election, even though that results are coming in a lot quicker than the 2020 election, I do think we're going to look at a buffer time of maybe tomorrow afternoon of getting a real clear decision of who's going to be the next president-elect. Then again, I may be wrong, but that's just my prediction right now at the trajectory of things, of how things are going.
No, I can totally see that, especially because states like Alaska and Hawaii aren't coming in until later.
Right, exactly. There's a lot to consider. We are going to wrap it up now and throw it back to the studio. We'll have more for you then.
Thank you, Miles and Arlon, for that absolutely brilliant analysis. Now we have some local races to talk about. If we could get those graphics up. Now, we can see that Swazi is currently leading in the local House race for here on Long Island in Suffolk County, while Lipstreet, I think that's how you pronounce his name, is currently losing, but Swazi, Democrat, is doing very well in this local race. Right, Andrew?
Yes. Swazi's leading with 53.6%, while Lippertree is 46.4%. with 51% of votes being reported in.
That's right. Now, back to the Union Ballroom to get some more reactions from attendees.
We have AB with us here tonight. How you feeling?
I'm feeling pretty nervous. This is a momentous state for the entire campus, but not just the campus, the entire state of New York and the entire country is watching right now. I think everyone has nerves right now, and we're all nervous. We're all we're all in shock, in suspense. We just can't wait for the results.
What are some important issues in this election for you?
I think some important issues in this election are first off, immigration. Immigration is an important issue, especially because many homeless people are in New York, and many around across the country as well, and it's a really important issue, especially after the debate when we had that whole cats and dogs thing. That's an important issue for me because immigrants they deserve to be respected, and we need to make legal immigration easier for people who want to come to America and make a better life in this country. The second important issue has to be abortion. Abortion it shouldn't be an issue. I'm gonna be honest. It should just be a basic right. for everybody. And I'm so glad that it's being addressed in this debate. And the final issue is the war in Israel, the Gaza Hamas war, whatever people call it. It should just not be happening. We should we should not be funding that war. We should be funding like other projects just to improve our quality of life here domestically, and like we should be like, you know, it sorry. It domestically we need like to like we should stop funding the war and we should start funding our own people.
All right. Thank you so much, AB, for coming over here and joining us and sharing your thoughts. This election is certainly one for the history books. Stay tuned as we unfold the story. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you for that wonderful interview. Just keeping you updated on the polls. Wisconsin, Trump currently leads with 49.7, with Harris having 48.8. And Pennsylvania, that important state that we've been discussing this whole night, is currently in favor of Trump with 51%, while Harris has 48.1. We're sending off to Chris, who's currently at the Democratic Watch Party.
Welcome back to the Suffolk County Democratic Watch Party. As you can see, it's very bustling and exciting. There's a lot of people here today, but we have news from the Suffolk County general election, not at the state level, that Avalon is trailing behind Lolota at 44% compared to his 55%. Lolota, having a 10% lead, very large lead. So overall, it's not looking the best. But at the current moment, tension, hope is still high in the air. A lot of people still mingling and socialing around. And overall, a great time for the Democrats as the night is about to end. Thank you. Back to the desk.
Thomas Pardo bringing us the latest updates from the Republican Party Watch Party. Thomas?
This has been a very busy night with tons of twists and turns throughout. But of course, the night is far from over. And as you see behind me, Jesse Garcia and his family and supporters are speaking on the stage as they are updating the race. And of course, like I said, it's far from over. So be sure to stay tuned with Stony Brook for the rest of the coverage. And of course, on the presidential side, Donald Trump right now is at an 82% chance of winning, but it is far from over. This has been Thomas Pardo reporting from the Stereo Passion. Let's go back to the studio.
Welcome back to the desk. Some new updates. Harris has taken Colorado and the District of Columbia. That's right.
Yeah, now leading her total to 112, while Donald Trump still holds the lead at 198. It's currently looking like he will be taking Pennsylvania with 55.1% of votes counted, and him having a lead of 51%, while Harris has 48.1. In Wisconsin, on the other hand, with 49.6%, can't count that state out as it's still a battlegrounds there, with Trump having 49.8 and Harris having 49.7 votes going towards her. So this is still a neck-and-neck race. And it's also looking like Michigan, with 21.2% estimated votes counted. Harris currently has the lead with 49.5%, but it's not as big of a margin as it was previously, with Trump still trailing behind, but making a comeback with 48.8%. We'll send it off to Miles, who has more on the polls and updates of the state.
Yes, and we are back here in the newsroom. Erline, I just want to speak about this new prediction coming out of the New York Times. We spoke a little bit about it earlier in the show, but now it was 81%, now going up to 82%, leaning in Trump's favor of taking this election. What are your thoughts?
Well, he's also predicted to win the popular vote, which that part was a little surprising, especially after the last rally, and especially after the comments made about Haitian immigrants, you know? But he is expected to take the popular vote and the electoral vote.
Very interesting things. Everything is happening so quick, you know, as Sky just mentioned earlier in the broadcast.
Right.
Colorado has just been called for Kamala Harris, as well as the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. As I said earlier, I was really looking at Virginia and North Carolina. And they're very close. We do have to throw it back to the studio, so we'll have more for you soon.
Now, go off to the Democratic Watch Party. We've got a really great interview for you guys. Stay tuned.
Hello, I'm back here with the Suffolk County Democratic Party. I'm here with Steve Engelbright, a current U.S. New York State legislator, and overall, county legislator. How are you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling very good, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Good. I mean, I want to ask, you know, as a person who's been in this, been in this for so long, how do nerves play into like the candidacy and that last part of the campaigning?
Well, the nerves keep you going, and the mission, the sense of maybe being able to really make a meaningful contribution is something that those nerves fuel. So it's all good if it's going in the right direction. And it feels tonight like things might be going in a very good direction, at least for some of our local races.
So overall then, I mean, like, what do you think of voter turnout? You know, is this more than in the past?
The big turnout tonight. Turnout is very mercurial in Suffolk County, depending upon who's at the top of the ticket. So the top of the ticket in the national scene this year is bringing out a big turnout. So we'll have to see what the final numbers look like, but the turnout is really substantial.
Yeah. Overall, I mean, do you find so what's kind of special about this year's compared to last year's?
Well, last year we didn't really have a presidential race going on, so the turnout was low. That's the biggest difference. You put your finger on it. You mentioned turnout. The presidential year has brought out a lot of people who really only are interested in the presidential politics. In the off year, last year was such a year. People who come out are fewer and are not motivated by the same issues. So the issues are a little different for the presidential race. And this year, of course, there's a lot on the line that's been outlined by those candidates that are running for the highest office.
Thank you so much for your time. Back to you at the desk. Thank you.
All right, now newest forecasts from the New York Times suggest that Trump has an 83% chance of victory. He's still leading in Pennsylvania, which, as we discussed with Professor Baxter earlier, is currently the most important state for each candidate to win. Long story short, if I was rooting for Trump to win tonight, I'd feel pretty confident. What do you think?
I think that's well said. You know, with 46 million votes leading ahead of Harris, he also is making a comeback in Michigan, down by 0.3%. So it's looking like it may go in his favor, and currently still has the lead within Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. So if I were rooting for him, I would definitely be in a great position as well.
All right, now off to the Union Ballroom with Anjali. Here's some more reactions as the election unfolds.
We have Claire Guy with us here tonight. Hi, Claire. How you feeling?
I'm feeling good.
What motivated you to come to this watch party tonight?
I mean, I'm pretty passionate about politics. A lot of my friends are as well. So I figured I might as well see who's going and,
Do you think watch parties like this bring students together that they can talk more about politics?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think it definitely opens the table. It kind of breaks down some of the barriers for students who might be nervous about, voicing political opinions. Because I know, like, in my friend group previously, like, we don't really talk about politics. So, all coming here tonight and it being such like a heated election, I would say. We really have to talk about them. So, it's interesting.
Is there any specific results you're hoping for?
I'm a right-leaning independent, so I would like to see Trump take office again. I understand that that's not my friend group's perspective. But because of events like this, we're all able to sit at the same table and have conversations, despite who we want to win and our ideals and stuff like that. So.
All right, it was amazing to have you here. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us your opinions and views. The room is filled with anticipation and excitement. Stay tuned as we bring the latest news to you. Back to you in the studio.
Breaking news out of New Hampshire. Kelly Ayotte, a Republican, has just won the governor's seat of New Hampshire, a race being called by the Associated Press just now, beating out her Democratic opponent, Joyce Craig, by around a 5% margin. So the newest take for the the newest update in these election results continue to come in. Ayotte has won with 50% of votes being counted in New Hampshire, but that state will now be controlled by a Republican governor. Andrew, anything else you'd like to add?
I think just as we break away from the national elections, we're looking at the Senate and the House, and those are still currently dominated by the Republicans as they take the lead in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So it's very interesting to see.
Right. Now, Arlon and Miles in the newsroom with some more analysis and updates. Back to you guys.
Yes, we are back in the newsroom, Erlon and I. And Erlon, as I was just saying, I'm really right now looking at Michigan, Wisconsin, Minnesota. Right now, trending red. It looks like we don't know, or is Michigan is blue for right now. Right. It's very neck and neck. The state of Iowa right now is trending Republican. Now we don't know if that poll coming from Ann Seltzer is really going to serve as truth for the Democratic ticket. I honestly, if I were, in their shoes, I kind of be quaking in my boots right now. How's it looking?
I'm going to tell you, Mouse, it's the marginal differences that really make or break the election. Because let me tell you, Michigan, for example, they're both at 49%, but Kamala is up by 0.2%. And on top of that, we have the states flipping. Arizona, which was blue at first, is now red. New Mexico is still blue, still staying strong. Yes. Maine, actually, it was red this entire time, and now it actually flipped to blue.
Now it's shifting blue.
Right.
More updates coming soon. We're going to throw it back to the studio.
Now, back to the Democratic headquarters with Miriam Gerges and Christopher Yang.
Hi, I'm here with Rebecca Cassay, who is running for the 4th District New York State Assembly. Rebecca, how do you feel about the voter turnout today?
I'm really grateful for every voter who turned out and made their voice heard. We were knocking doors in Gordon Heights until 8:50 this evening. We had one young woman who didn't know that she was actually registered to vote. She was 18 years old. We got her connected to her polling place. She jumped in the car and ran and voted. And that's the kind of race that we've been running, is just making sure that everyone has their voice heard.
So how do you feel about everything that you've done so far, the campaigning and all that that's gotten you to this point?
I'm so proud of our team. I'm so grateful to my husband for being an incredible supporter. If you told me 5 years ago I was going to be running for state office, I would have said you had the wrong woman. For me, I've been a servant to the community in other ways, creating a teen volunteer program in Avalon Park and Reserve, being a small business owner in the hospitality industry in Port Jefferson. And that's really, I feel, prepared me to serve the public. And I think a lot of people just feel like government's gotten off track as far as being connected with what the everyday person needs and wants to see themselves reflected in. And I just hope the voters came out today and that message resonated with them.
And lastly, how do you feel about the atmosphere here and being here and watching people come out here?
I'm so grateful to be surrounded by the people who have been by my side for months and months. Really, it's been a year now. And so I'm just, to me, this is about celebrating the work that we've shared, the work helping connect people with resources even before holding office. And I just, again, just hope that the turnout
was in my favor and that I get to bring dignity and public service back to this office.
Well, thank you so much, Rebecca. Back to you at the desk.
Breaking news, CNN is calling Iowa for Trump. Despite that poll that was published just a few days ago, showing that Harris had a 3-point lead ahead in Iowa, Trump has taken the state, according to the CNN decision desk. Any thoughts, Andrew?
I think that's key. You know, 55.7% in favor of Trump. So it's right now, the current update on the polls is 204 to 112. So it's really looking in favor of Trump. In addition to that, I believe it's still a 78% chance of victory leaning towards Trump. Actually, 88% chance of victory. 88% chance. The New York Times is reporting an 88% chance of victory for Donald Trump. So just to show you how that's going, and as we look at our states, our battleground states, Trump is likely going to take Pennsylvania with 57.7% estimated votes counted, and him having 50.9% going towards his favor. Wisconsin is currently no longer neck and neck. He has a 50.1% lead, and Kamala has 48.5 with 54.5% votes counted.
Right, not looking too hot for the Harris campaign, I would argue.
Yeah, it's not looking too well. We discussed time and time again throughout this night that Pennsylvania was going to be a key state in the Harris victory, with Trump just being in the lead most of this night and most of this election, but clearly seeing that it's going to go towards him. And just in Kansas, Trump currently holds Kansas as well.
Yeah. All right, now, Miles in the newsroom.
And yes, and we are back in the newsroom tonight. Aralon, this is looking like it's going to Trump right now. This is
really does.
you know, if I were someone who's rooting for Trump or whatever, I'd be really confident right now.
My heels.
Yeah, honestly, especially with these polls coming from Pennsylvania. I mean, look at this.
And then Times, the New York Times is saying it's 88% likely that he will win.
Yeah.
And on top of that, the thing that's so interesting is that all of these states in the middle especially are just red on top of red, and now he's up 210 points. He just needs about 60 more points.
It's crazy. We're going to go back to you guys in the studio as they wrap things up.
Now, we are seeing new results in New York City showing that Trump is seeing a boost in support in both the Bronx, Brooklyn, and the Queens so far, according to the New York Times. Now, his recent rally at Madison Square Garden was extremely controversial, but it does seem to have led to a boost in polls, or at least contributed to it. What do you think?
I think that's interesting. I think throughout this whole election, we've been seeing how different areas have been changing through the course of the night. Biden flipped his birth state, Pennsylvania, back in 2020, but now it's seeming like it's leaning towards Republicans. Wisconsin sided with the Democrat candidates all the way from 1988 through 2012, and in 2016, Trump managed to flip it, but Biden was able to reclaim it back in 2020. Now it's looking like it's going to go towards Trump as well. So these changes that have been constantly happening throughout the night, I think there's very, very interesting to see the needs of the people and what they want, and they're clearly looking for Trump.
Absolutely. Let's take it back to the Stony Brook University watch party in the Union Ballroom with Anjali to get some more reactions.
We have Valet here with us tonight. Hi, how are you doing?
I'm good.
What motivated you to come to this watch party tonight?
I wanted to just be around other people to experience the election. I think it's important to be in a group setting when we're getting like news this big.
What are the important issues in this election for you?
Women's rights, the economy, and generally like preserving our democracy.
How important do you think for universities to conduct a watch party for students and for them to bring students together so they can prosper politics talk?
I think it's super important. I think it's really important that we get people who are all getting higher education together to talk about things. It's people from all different areas of the country and the region. So I think it's really important to get all those different opinions.
All right, thank you so much. It was so nice to having you here. Please stay tuned as we proceed with the story. Thank you so much. Back to you in studio.
Thank you. We're going to send it off to Chris at the Democratic Party who has more.
Hello, my name is Christopher. You're back to live. Here I am with Fred Hershkowitz, the Democratic State Senate nominee for District 2. First of all, how are you feeling tonight?
It's a little demoralizing. I think, we were hoping like independents would break our way, but it looks like independents are breaking really hard to Republicans tonight. So it's a little disappointing.
Yeah. Then overall, I guess some comments on voter turnout. Like, did a lot of people come out to support compared to other years?
Yeah, I think turnout was still pretty good. But what we noticed on the ground is a lot of independent voters are blaming Democrats for the migrant crisis, and abortion didn't, play well in New York because a lot of New Yorkers feel complacent that New York abortion rights are protected. So a lot of the independents moved towards Republicans at this election.
Well, it's you worked so hard just to get to this moment. Overall, it's just a lot of work put into it. How does it? What do you want to say to just all the people that worked with you and all that?
Oh, the people I work with have been fantastic. The Huntington Democrats, the Smithtown Democrats. It's been absolutely amazing. I really appreciate all the support. We knew it was an uphill battle, but we were very proud of the work that we did.
I want to ask a question about District 1 and District 2, because District 1 has become so big in the previous, with this year and in the past. Like, how does it feel, for District 1 to just become that big compared to District 2?
Yeah, it makes so Congressional District 1 is a very difficult district. It's extremely expansive, and I know John Avalon was running all over the district, and it's a very hard district to run in, and it's a very diverse district. So yeah, it's definitely very challenging, and one would hope like the district lines would be a little bit closer, in the future. So hopefully, we gain more residents in New York, and when we redraw the lines on the next redistricting, we could have better lines, make it easier to campaign and to talk to constituents.
Okay, thank you so much for your time, Havlicek. Back to you at the desk.
Breaking news out of Maine. Kamala Harris has won the electoral vote in Maine's 1st district. Now, Maine is a unique state compared to others. It doesn't actually award all of its electoral votes to the person who wins the popular vote within the state. It divides them up proportionally. So Harris has won a single electoral vote out of Maine so far. This is breaking news. Anything to add, Andrew?
Nothing new right now. Like you said, Trump holds Iowa. It's 113 to 210. Trump's still holding the lead, so it's interesting to see how the night will go, but it's looking like the election will favor Trump right now.
That's right. Now we are going back to the Union with Anjali.
Grab this election, and tonight here in front of you all tonight, this room is evident that the anticipation and the dedication is filled in students and everyone around here in this room tonight. Stay tuned as we bring more updates and then have a close eye on everything that's going on. For now, back to you in the studio.
Now we're going to hear from Miles and Arlan once again from the newsroom.
And we are back in the newsroom. If I had to say my final thoughts right now, this Great Lakes State wall that Kamala Harris would have to need to win, that is her only hope at this point. I feel like this is strongly in Trump's favor right now. I'm not going to call it for Trump just yet, but things are looking really good for him and the Republican Party right now. What are your thoughts and final predictions?
She needs close to 187 votes. I don't know how this is going to work out, but honestly, my final thoughts about it was this was the most shocking outcome I could have expected.
Yeah.
I did not expect him to take
this quick of an outcome too.
Right. Not only the popular vote did he take, he also is taking the projected winner, and he's taking the electoral votes.
Right. Just crazy
But
things.
that's the Republican Party across this whole election, and I was never expecting that.
Right. And I can't stress the fact enough, just the pure contrast between this election and 2020, how fast we're getting these. There were a lot of factors that led into that. We had the pandemic, and the vote counting was a lot slower. But this is just actually astonishing how red this map is. Very crazy. So those are our final thoughts here from the newsroom. We're going to send it back to the studio.
Now we are going back to the Democratic headquarters.
Hi, thank you so much for having us here at the Suffolk County Democratic Watch Party. It's been a great time talking to a lot of people, talking to a lot of state assembly members. We have had a great time. Chris, do you have anything to add?
I mean, overall, like, it's just been a really cool situation to be in. There's so many people here waiting for results to come in. Of course, you know, the presidential election, the results probably won't come in until maybe a few days later. But overall, on the local level, I mean, it was a hard battle to fight. Some of the Democrats, you know, it's been a win-lose situation. Some of the Republicans have been winning in their areas. So it's just, you know, election night's always a magical night just to see all the work contributed by these candidates throughout the entire year to see, you know, if they can represent themselves and represent the people. And now the people are speaking, and, you know, it's been a great opportunity to stay up, bring you guys the most, you know, recent information, as well as just get all the candidacies out. Yeah.
That's it from us. Back to you at the desk.
Thank you all. Now, we are wrapping up the show. It is not clear we don't have a decisive decision on who is going to be the next president of the United States. However, the New York Times is forecasting that Trump will win the presidency with an 87% chance of victory, so take that as you will.
Trump currently leads with 210 and Kamala is 113. But do keep in mind, folks, that it does take time for the results to really just get out there. It's going to likely have the result towards the end of the week, so we can only be hopeful that that you'll have the best result that you can. But on behalf of Stony Brook Media Group and on behalf of myself and Sky, and also the people behind the scenes who are working hard diligently with technical directing, teleprompter, and graphics, or even just telling us the updates, we thank you all for tuning in.
And I also like to take a second to thank all of our guests who came on today, the Stony Brook administrators, the politicians, the students who spoke to us, Professor Baxter. This show would not be anywhere near as good as it was without the input of all our guests. So thank you all for taking the time to speak to us and help make the show as good as it was. Reporting for the Stony Brook Media Group, I'm Sky Crabtree.
And I'm Andrew.